This episode of Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast is brought to you by BJJ Connections, connecting BJJ practitioners and athletes all over the world, including lifestyle, competitions, and much more. Follow BJJ Connections on social media for their amazing content. They are in Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And this episode of Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast is also brought to you by Cervical Kimonos. Action is everything. The famous gi brand in the UAE and Middle East. Also, they are all over Europe and shipping worldwide. Cervical Kimonos. Action is everything. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast. Our first guest have been deeply involved with mixed martial arts since its very inception in India. He is one of the most recognized names in MMA today. He is the founder and head coach of Team Relentless, India premier MMA and submission wrestling fight team that has placed Indian MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on a global map. An active competitor and a BJJ purple belt, he is also known to be a regular guest and expert commentator in various MMA shows and blogs. His name is also synonymous with the sports of MMA and BJJ in India across the globe. He is also, alongside his partner, Mrs. Preksha Jabari, pioneering the one-of-its-kind kids and teens BJJ program founded in 2010 by the man himself. Evolution Combat Sports was the first of its kind combat sports academy dedicated to developing MMA and BJJ submission wrestling athletes in the country. The home of Team Relentless, India's #1 MMA and grappling fight team, Evolution Combat Sports is a center of excellence that has always emphasizing quality over quantity. And in the last decade, Evolution Combat Sports Academy has produced over a dozen national and global champions with the athletes representing the team and the country across the globe, in countries like Malaysia, Singapore, China, Bahrain, UAE, Russia, Thailand, to name a few. The ever-growing popularity of the sport of MMA and BJJ submission wrestling in India largely revolves around the efforts of the owners and athletes at the Evolution Combat Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to say that our guest today for the very first episode of Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast is the man, Jitendra Khare. Hello, Jitendra. It's a huge pleasure having you here on our very first episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great, Coach, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on the first episode. I just can't thank you enough.
So, let us know about your origins, your childhood and teenager time, some of how you grow up.
So, Coach, I was born in Mumbai, and my parents used to actually stay in a small town on outside Mumbai, which is like a 2-hour drive from Mumbai. But I have schooled all around the state in which I'm in. It's called Maharashtra. So my initial schooling was in this city called Nasik, which we had visited, if you remember, while you were down here.
Yeah,
And
that's
from then,
nice place.
yeah, and from there I moved on to another city, which is about 4 hours drive, called Pune, for my college. And then moved to Mumbai for my professional course. I've done my aircraft maintenance engineering. And that's how I came back to Mumbai and have been in Mumbai since 1996. So, yeah, it's been 24 years being back in Mumbai.
Yeah, that's a nice journey, huh?
Yes, have been privileged to.
Even in childhood, teenager time, go here and there, back and forth. That's nice. That's pretty nice,
Yes,
bro.
yeah. So I was lucky to, start traveling at an early age. I went to Nasik for my boarding when I was in the fifth standard. So I've been traveling since I was 10 years old on my own, and yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
Right, right.
How you have been started in sports or even martial arts? What come first?
So actually, coach, I was lucky to be in a school. My school's name was Ban School Devlali, and over there the emphasis on sports was as much as the emphasis on academics. So I was lucky to have started early in sports. I remember having my first boxing bout when I was in the sixth standard. Boxing was one of the sports that we did across the year, and I still remember my first bout. I had no idea what was happening. I was I was a 10-year-old
Scratching
kid.
each other over there.
Yeah, I was a 10-year-old kid fighting a 14-year-old kid with boxing gloves on, and I really didn't know what to do with those except for cover my face and run around the ring. But yeah, I did manage to survive 3 rounds, and that's how my experience with martial arts started. And so I started took on, like most kids in India, coach. Karate is one of the things that you do in school. Though it's very belt driven and it's not more of practical application, but luckily being in a boarding, you learn to fight.
Right.
So
Like
boxing.
the first contact is normally from karate.
Yes. So, being from a boxing and karate background, obviously I started striking first. When I would come back home during my vacations, which were summer vacations, which were about 2.5 months long, I had a friend who would, do some mud pit wrestling, and I started joining him and started learning a bit. Though my initial few years of learning was getting my face rubbed in the mud, but
Yeah.
it still was a great experience, and I think that kind of set me on track for my martial arts journey. When I shifted to Pune, I continued with a bit of boxing, but my actual grappling training started with me starting to learn judo in 2008
Right.
under under my coach, Mr. Ashok Chaudhary. And that's when I got the hang of training in a gi and actually training some grappling, because back then there was nobody training jiu-jitsu or Brazilian jiu-jitsu in India, and that was the closest that I could get to learning anything in gi. And have been watching UFC since I believe 2006 is when the ESPN in India used to telecast Pride, and I still remember watching one of Rampage Jackson's first fight. I was changing
Oh,
channel, and I see Rampage Jackson with the chain.
Rampage is
Yeah,
tough, man. He's unbelievable.
I was thinking, oh, this is the new WWF, and let's see what this is. So I saw that there's something in Japan, so I thought that maybe this is Japanese wrestling, and that was
Yeah.
my first encounter with WWF. And way back then in India, internet was a luxury. So we used to have those dial-up internets, which would take like sometimes an hour just to connect, and that's when I started watching YouTube videos, and I got interested in this whole concept of MMA, of looking at a sport which is not just striking or not just grappling. And then I just started going around the city trying to figure out what how I could learn some grappling. So had a very interesting year where I met so many different coaches, so-called coaches, and so-called martial artists, and then I realized that I think the best thing that I could do at that point was to start learning judo. So that's where my gi training started. In 2010, I kind of linked up with an old friend of mine whose father used to be my karate coach in school, my karate and boxing coach. And we started what was then, at least Mumbai's first mixed martial arts training center.
Right.
And that's how started the journey 10 years ago.
Nice, nice. And here in Brazil as well, bro, as soon as internet become a reality, just a few and fancy people knows how to use and have money enough to pay, you know. That's Yeah, that's really crazy. I remember that for UFC 2, I have a friend. He already watched the VHS tape from UFC 1. Then he said to us, I guess 4 or 5 guys we are on that time. Uh, uh, he said, "Oh, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they will receive tape from UFC 2." And then, and the exactly day he went there, take the tape and bring to us. Couple guys watching and see, man, it's not real. They receive money for that and this and that. It sounds crazy. But then you start to figure out what's happening in reality, and then Rice Grace become a star.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, actually for us, it all started pretty late, though. I would like to say that it started pretty early. It didn't. I mean, it was only around 2006, 2007, when we actually got access to so much information on MMA. And, that time the whole idea of BJJ was just so mythical for us because, there was a man who was beating up people with this one martial arts, and we were like, oh, we need to learn this, we need to learn this. But there was just absolutely nobody who was genuine enough to teach. I remember in 2009, the friend that I spoke to you about hosted a seminar by one of the very early guys that I had the privilege of training under. He was an Italian guy, a brown belt in
Oh,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I remember attending his seminar in 2009, and I was like completely blown away by it because, there were these huge wrestlers in that, because this seminar was held in a wrestling pit because we didn't have
uh-huh.
that many mats or like a proper BJJ gym back then. And,
Right.
he was kind enough to actually conduct this seminar in a wrestling pit. And, I remember him, he was a pretty big guy. He was about 85 kgs back then. But then he post the seminar. Like most seminars, you have these bunch of people who feel, I can take on this guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember him rolling with these Indian wrestlers who were like really massive guys, and he was toying with them. Like they would take him down, and he would be like, he with a smile on his face, he would let them take him down, and then he would lock up triangles and arm bars. And I think most of them didn't even know how to tap, and he would be like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? I hope I don't hurt you." And then he stopped and he said, "Listen, guys, I need to teach you how to tap." And it was just so. It was just so unreal at that point, seeing him do all that. And I think he went on and rolled with about 8 to 10 guys. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And when we see the guys look like him, it's like he is a wizard, right?
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. I still remember that experience. I'm still in touch with him, and on and off we still chat, and I still tell him that that was like the most unbelievable experience I had, had. And I was like, man, I need to learn this. I need to learn this.
Yeah, I can imagine, bro. Uh, bro, it's difficult to don't talk about this nowadays, right? So that's why I want to ask you about this, and also to people know what you like. You are the biggest guy in MMA and BJJ in India. Uh, how you dealing with this quarantine time? How you dealing with home exercise? How is your family time and all of this mess over there, over the world actually?
So, coach, to be very honest, I mean, thank you for the compliment of being the biggest guy. I'm not sure on that, but yes, so it has been tough, coach. I mean, to be very honest, I was talking about this on one of the videos that I did. Initially, the first 2 weeks, we were in a lockdown for 2 weeks initially, and the first 2 weeks felt good because for the last 10 years, I've been literally working like 16 to 18 hours a day. So the first 2 weeks felt great, the recovery felt great, and we were all like, oh, it's just about two
It
weeks,
sounds like
let's just
a
sit
perfect
down.
vacation, right?
Yeah, it did, initially it did. And, the whole team, all of us were like, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks, it'll just pass, let's just take some time, recover, and let's just give time to family and stuff. But one week into, the lockdown, and we started getting news that this isn't going to be over soon. So, we had to start preparing for a longer lockdown, and this could take, much, much more time than what we had thought. And I think, over a period of time, my teams also started getting anxious. All the teammates started, there were people who started calling me up saying, coach, this isn't working. Just sitting around whole day is just getting me depressed. And honestly, the same thing was happening to me. I was spiraling down because, being an athlete and being an active person, going from working, 16 to 18 hours a day to being locked down in the house 24 hours, it felt good for a week, but then I think, that frustration started creeping in, and somewhere we all started realizing that it's not going to be healthy for not just our physical but also mental state, and also for our families, because I was getting more irritable in my interactions. And we kind of, all of us got on a call, and we said, listen, what we are going to do is, we usually, on normal weeks, we train around, the whole team gets together after everyone finishes their morning coachings and PTs and classes, and we train in the afternoon at about 1 p.m. And then evening again, late evening, we have, our evening training for the team. And we decided we are going to continue doing that online. And, we are just going to continue trying to train at similar times, so our, bodies stay accustomed, and, our body clock stays energetic around the same time. So if and when ever we ever get out of
Yeah,
this whole
yeah.
thing and we are allowed to train again as a group, we should be, obviously it's not going to be easy getting back. All up, this, the whole intensity varies and stuff. But so it's been about 5 weeks, coach, and we've been about a group of uh, 15 people on and off. People do have, not everyone's regular. Sometimes we have work at home, or somebody needs to take some family member to the doctor or something. But it's
Yeah.
still been, a good, I think a good experience. Initially, we all were having problem dealing with, training online. We were like, oh man, the intensity is not there, I'm not able to hit pads, or I'm just drilling. But then we realized that, it's better than not doing anything and just sitting at home, and just going down the road of depression. At least we were doing something, we were making good of our time. And we was, the mindset was that at least we are still thinking on the lines of, training. So we are thinking about drills, but be it Muay Thai, be it boxing, be it,
Yeah.
even BJJ. We were thinking about drills, we were sharing videos and saying, listen, can we try this and can we try that? And so we experimented a lot in the first week, and then we decided what works for us, what doesn't work for us. So I kind of put together, a schedule where, now more or less what we are doing is, we do afternoons as skill training and evenings as strength and conditioning. And that's been working great for us. So after 4 weeks, what happened is that we've gone through kind of a set syllabus that I had planned, and now I'm getting my each of my teammates to them to lead the classes, and revise everything we've done over 4 weeks, parts and parts of it. So they pick what part of it they're going to do, and they take
Perfect.
the whole team through it. So that way, even I get to see how much of it they've picked up. If not, what is it that they need fine tuning? And it's just more interactive. They are also taking up the responsibility of now leading classes. So for once they are in my place, and they have to understand it because they need to coach it, and then I'm the one asking the questions. So it's been great. And I think I'm blessed to have teammates that think like me, and are equally passionate about the sport. So yeah, it's been tough, but I think, the way I look at it, and I think talking to you, very honestly, has helped a lot. Talking to you, sharing with you, because we all come from the same mindset, we all come from the same background. Talking with
Yes,
somebody and
absolutely.
sharing helps a lot, coach. So yeah, thank you for being there for us during this time.
Nothing to be thankful, bro. I'm here. You know that. You know that. Uh, it's hard because at the same time we take some rest, like you said, right? On 10 days, 2 weeks, it's good. The joints become kind of normal, and the pain, the soreness all comes. You said, oh man, now I'm 20 again. But then, yeah, then become very sucks, and you want to practice, but you don't have enough space, and you just want to do adjustments, like you said.
Yeah,
That's the main thing. And of course, we keep in touch since the beginning in 2017, I guess, if I'm
yes,
not wrong.
yes.
And
It's been
that's
years.
encourage each other, and uh, we trying to do this a little bit lower, and keep it easy to, because sooner or later it's gone, right? It will be gone.
Yeah.
And then if you go to depressive times, if you go under medicines, how you recover your performance, right?
True, coach. Very
Especially
true.
for us over 40s.
Yes, it's very difficult.
uh, Bro, my question for you now is about, as a academy gym owner. Okay, we know every country, and inside every country, every city, every province or state has a little different approach. But my question for you is how this COVID-19 affects directly you as a gym academy owner. I mean by finance.
So, coach, there has been obviously a huge direct impact because what happened is, before we went to lockdown on on 23rd of March, actually a week before that itself, the government announced shutting down of malls and schools and all gyms, and so we've been shut actually since the 15th of March. So since the 15th of March, we've had obviously no admissions, no memberships, and the unfortunate thing is that we were in middle of actually shifting to another place, a bigger place. So now that whole thing has been impacted. We've been blessed. Like I've been blessed to have been working with good people. So my older landlord, or the person whose place we had rented, he's been kind enough to tell us to he I mean, we are all in this together, and he was very open in saying that we could take our time until the lockdown is there. He understands that we cannot shift. So so he's okay. uh, and I think the only challenge that we are going to face after the lockdown even releases is, we do not really know when gyms will be allowed to be open. We are so me and my partner, Ms. Preksha Zaveri, we are working on a contingency plan where we can have all sorts of precautions. We have kind of got a plan in place. We are trying to run it by the local authorities to see if that plan is something they will approve of. And the challenge that we are facing is, at the moment, I don't really see that gyms and martial arts centers are a priority for the state government. I mean, strangely, yes, wine shops are, because that
Yeah,
seemed to boost the Indian economy. I mean,
that's
I can
my
completely
next
understand.
question.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, the sales of wine, liquor over 2 days could be a GDP of a country, I believe. But
It's
yeah,
crazy.
so
It's crazy.
it's just the whole uncertainty of when can we start, and then the whole thing around even post we start. We need to. I believe then the responsibility. It's very easy to point a finger on our government and say, oh, our government's not doing enough or this is not doing enough. But I think we should be grateful that we are safe at home. And I still truly believe that we went into a lockdown earlier than most countries. And I talk to a lot of people, and I think that we're doing a decent job in trying to do the best we can at this time, given our resources, given our population. But a lot of onus lies on us as gym owners and owners of academy into providing safety. And I think it's about the mindset of people that are going to come and join, about how safe they are training at that gym. Because even if the lockdown ends, let's be very realistic. It's not like the pandemic is going away. We're still going to see cases, and maybe even higher, because now people are going to be out, people are going to be traveling. Hopefully we've learned in the lockdown, we've learned social distancing, we've learned about how to use masks, sanitize. Obviously the 2 days where the lockdown opened up for the liquor shops and all taught us that maybe we really haven't. But one can only stay positive. I think the bigger challenge, coach, would be around convincing people that the center is still safe to train, and putting measures which actually convey that safety to people. So yes, I mean, the financial impact has been huge, and most of my fighters, especially the fight team, have all been people that are full-time fighters, and they make living doing personal trainings and running classes. And it'll be almost 2 months of having absolutely nothing next weekend. So yes, I've been talking to a couple of my fighters, and they already are feeling the financial pinch. And but I guess at the moment, I think the bigger thing is that we are all healthy, we are all alive, and we can only look forward to the future and see how we are going to recover out of this. I wish I had an answer. Currently, I don't, because everything is so uncertain. I mean, you hear a lot of rumors, oh, gyms are not going to start till then, and oh, they are not going to allow this, they're not going to allow that. But the rumor mongering is not something I want to get into, till we don't get some concrete news. I think, the biggest thing we can do at the moment is stay positive and just plan for what comes our way.
Yeah, you touching a perfect point. Just stay positive, because we don't know. It's been in 1 month, in 6 months, we don't know.
We don't,
right?
Truly we don't, coach, because we've not, I mean, let's be really honest, we haven't seen something or to this extent, or we've never experienced something at the scale that this was. And I don't think that there was anybody who could have even imagined a situation like this.
Yes. Yeah. I saw on the international channel in YouTube. I follow many channels. Of course, I don't want to say the name of the channels. They don't give me a coin for this. But I saw a scientist. He did the comparison. I said, man, that's perfect to how explain to new generation what's happening here, right? It's like the guys on the Second War started. They don't know what's happened on their country in the future. That's a kind of similar situation, of course. It's not man against man, but about the feelings, You don't know, maybe one family member, maybe someone you have in touch for a lot of times. We don't know. That's for me, it's a perfect measurement how the new generation can understand close as possible how to our minds is on this way right now.
Very true, coach. I mean, it's literally like we are in World War III. So, yeah, the only difference, like you said, it's not man versus man. I mean, it's just man versus an invisible virus. But yeah.
Uh, so to keep us positive in a positive vibe here, uh, let us know also because I'm interested on that how you do to be balanced between athlete because all of us know you are a athlete and keep competing and keep doing your best on the events, on the MMA fights and this and that, and how to dealing with your academy as a businessman.
So, coach, I think when way back in 2012, when I quit my job and I decided to do this full time, there was a conscious decision that was taken on my behalf to, I knew that one of us at that point, had to take the mantle of being the coach, and would that would take a big hit on the competitive side. And so it does make a difference, because yes, you do put your students their training and their camps before you. But I have also believed, and I have been fortunate enough to train with people like yourself, who have shown me that being a coach doesn't mean that you stop competing. One of the things that I have learned training with you and sharing the mat with you is that you know uh, I as a coach also, you need to stay sharp, you need to stay on the mat, because if we want our fighters to follow what we are doing or to listen to us, we need to do what they do. We can't make them do something that we are not doing. I believe this, and I believe that if I don't step on the mat, and if I don't train with my fighters, and I keep pushing them to a point of breaking, at some point they're going to turn around and say, look man, it's easy for you, you just sit there and bark out instructions. Why don't you step on the mat, do it with us daily? And so I think that mentality has helped me, not only being a good coach but also being a competitor, because though yes, all the times that I'm even training on the mat, I'm actually looking around to see, and I'm like, there are times when I'm at the bottom surviving, but I'm still calling out instructions to somebody rolling next to me saying, no man, don't do that, get out of there, you need to do this. And everybody on the mat would start laughing, and they'd be like, hey coach, you deal with that, and we'll try and figure this out after. I'm like, no, 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 you're in this situation, so get out of there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
know
I,
exactly what you said.
yeah. So I think as a competitor, it has helped me, because you always have to stay sharp, and and at 41 you're training with guys who are 23, 27. So yeah, and they are going at you 100%, because it's literally like they have a point to prove. One of the things that one of the coaches that I was fortunate enough to train with, Dennis Holman, used to say is that if you respect me as a coach, you give me 100%. You help me stay sharp, and that way I help you stay sharp. So I
Exactly.
think all those things have helped me as a competitor. As an athlete, yes, I mean, I train twice a day. I train 7 days a week. So I do 13 sessions of skill training around, and that coupled with 2 or 3 sessions of strength and conditioning. So I think that helps me. Um, yes, I can say that my career as a competing on the mat has obviously taken a backseat, because I have not done as many competitions as I would have loved to. Initially when we started, coach, the fighters that I had, or the teammates that I had, were not financially very strong. So there are times where we've had to take a call, like as a team we've decided that okay, we can only afford to send 2 or 3 people for a competition. And obviously at that time, I've always taken a back seat, because for me, these guys that are young and upcoming, encouraging them to compete and building a record for them was more important than building a record for myself. I mean, even when I started way back in 2012, I was already 32, 33 years old, and I was training guys who were 21, 20. So their careers obviously were starting, and their records mattered more than mine. And yeah, so it's balance. I would not say there is a balance, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm happy about the fact that at 41 I'm still able to, do competitions. Though I would like to step back again. Hopefully, uh, this year seems difficult with the whole thing going on. But
Yeah.
maybe next year, step back in the cage and do my second amateur fight. And get my win back. I'm 0-1. I need to make that 1-1. So
Yeah,
I'm
we
I'm
need to
100%
talk
going to do
about
that.
the 0-1 because it's
Yes, and
totally unfair, man. I know maybe people who watching us or even listening us, they said, you doing that because you are friends, you have a brotherhood relationship, but that's not at all, guys. This guy simply smash his opponent. All respect for your opponent, okay? But the judges on the on the card's decision made a mess. Sorry to say that. If your
it
opponent
is.
someday listen or watch this episode, but he knows if he is a good fighter, he knows he lost this fight.
I mean, coach, it was a close fight, and I mean, I was just,
A
believe
close
me,
fight
coach, at
because
that
it's a
point,
close combat, right?
yeah. No, I was just happy to, have been taken that chance to do that, and I have no regrets. And I think, the decision could have gone either way. So I next time I'll make sure that I, don't let it happen. I try and win
Exactly.
the fight, before it goes to the judge's hands. So I still want to do that, and yeah, so that's something which is my target. Hopefully next year I'll be able to do that. And yes, so now with my son, thanks to you, for starting the BJJ program for kids here in India. My son is having done his first competition. I'm actually looking forward to doing a BJJ competition where both of us can compete together. We were supposed to actually do that the week we went into lockdown, and we were supposed to travel to Malaysia and do the competition, which actually turned out to be one of the biggest competitions in whole of Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, because of this whole lockdown, we couldn't make it. But I'm really, that's another goal. I want to compete on the same mat as my son, and I think that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, that will be great, bro. Really, really will be great. I'm so thankful you asking me to start a BJJ program for kids in Mumbai. We will talk about this a little bit later. And who don't know his kid, Arian, he's an amazing little boy. He doing his best in every single second on the mat. He training with anyone. He tried to choke. He tried to sweep. Say if I'm doing something wrong, bro.
No, no,
I,
coach. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
he's amazing. He's
I think
amazing.
he's been blessed to have trained with people like you, and my teammates have been so nice to train with him. They don't teach. They all are always so open to teaching him, and everyone will be like, oh, I'm good at this, so I can teach him this. Oh, I'm good at this, and I can teach him this. Like Manthan, and Manthan has been working with him on judo, and Sushovan works with him on striking, and it's just been so nice to see him interact with the team. Like once he's in the gym, it's not even like he needs me or his mother around. He's like
Yeah,
he's part of the team. He trains with everybody, and he enjoys. It's just so amazing. It's such a pride for me to see him around with the team. And it's unfortunate that because of all this, even his training has stopped. But I think he has a long way. So yeah,
yeah.
back soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, he will be huge, man. Because on this age, the brain and the body is like a sponge. He will get every single point which anyone can give him, and he can adapt. He can use. He will be huge. In 10 years, we can talking about this.
Sure, coach.
So, bro, of course, before this COVID scenario, how you looks Indian fight scenario in India as BJJ and MMA?
So, Coach, there has been a huge growth in the whole scene of BJJ and MMA in India. Way back in 2010, when we started, we used to have a couple of clubs, and that claimed to be doing MMA, and it wasn't like we used to have some really good fighters. We had a couple of fighters, even back then, who did represent India at the global scene, but there was a huge level difference, and it was very evident. Some of them won a few fights here and there, but it was nothing great. But today, I think the BJJ and MMA scene in India is huge. I mean, it has exploded. In every city, in every town, there is a BJJ and an MMA gym, and there are so many talented young fighters out there. And I think we are finally, and I think the most interesting part for me is we are seeing now, what we are seeing is we've been through that phase where we had the initial bunch of MMA fighters in India who started off with whatever little background of martial arts they had, and then took on MMA, and then they traveled and they went to different gyms, and then they learned how to train. Finally, we are getting into the second generation of Indian MMA fighters, which are now trained in mixed martial arts. Like, there are a couple of young guys, not just in my gym, all over India, that I'm following, and it's really nice to see that these guys are there's just such a huge difference in the mindset, in the way they approach training, and the way they train as well. Like, it's now, it's not just what they are good at and then doing a bit of what they need to learn. Like, most initially, the most fighters in India were either from a striking background, and then they did a little more BJJ, with somebody to understand BJJ, or how
Right,
to
right.
get out of a
How
bad
to
spot.
avoid things.
Yeah, but now you see, Indian fighters who are really getting really good at grappling and also at striking. So we are seeing that second generation of the so-called hybrid MMA fighters emerge in India, and I think it's a very exciting phase. And we have just so much access to information. Like, even the Indian fighters, they have so much exposure. We have so many MMA blogs and MMA podcasts in India as well. So even fighters at local levels, and even fighters at smaller cities, are getting that exposure. They come on these interviews and stuff like that, and people across India are getting to know them. And I think it's great. I think it's great. We are at a good place right now. Hopefully, we get a couple of more bigger promotions to start in India. We've been trying to do something at grassroots level, and like most sports in India, we're struggling. But it's just a matter of time before the bigger promotions come down to India, and it's only going to get better, and I think it's only going to get bigger.
Great, great. Yeah, I can't agree more with you, bro. I have a few experience over India in some cities, and I really see when I was there the guys who really have this kind of not, it's not a worry, but is the commitment. It's the commitment to how to understand the BJJ and use that in MMA, and also the next step, how to apply the BJJ in MMA. And this is a huge overcome for them, right? And that will be great. As soon as this all mess is finished, I know and I hope the Indian events go to the sky.
Thank you, coach. Thank you for that.
So our podcast is a Jiu-Jitsu Cafe Podcast, and the guys can thinking, oh, they just talking about fighting. So let's give a coffee break, right? I will take my one here, right?
No, I don't have one right now.
Oh man, please. You broke my next question for you. Let me know which kind of relationship you have with coffee. You can live without coffee?
Don't think so. So it's
How many cups you took a day? You take a day?
difficult to answer, but I think six.
Oh,
So it's that saying, coach, right? Death before decaf. So I guess for
yeah.
all of us that applies. So yeah, it's been a little lesser in the lockdown. I'm just been on particular treatment and have been asked to reduce. But yeah, it's still on. It's still on. Caffeine for life.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
And
my
it's good for me today because because here is now more than 1 a.m. I will sleep for sure today with this this small cup of coffee.
I'm
Uh,
thinking of getting sleep tonight.
Return to fight scenario. What you think? Again, guys, most of questions I give here to my brother Jitendra Khare, it's about on the regular situation. We know that we never see this before. We training at home, but some questions we need to know how this guy is doing the training. Okay, so what do you prefer? In my opinion, both is good, but each one in one kind of situation. But for you, what is the better one? Memorizing game or write it down?
So, coach, I I come from that old school mentality, which where I believe that the faintest ink is stronger than the best memory. So, I for one have a habit of writing things down, and when I say writing things down, I don't mean opening up the notepad on my phone. I have a book and a pen, and I still write things down. So I still cannot get my head around typing things. I have to write it down to remember anything. And it's funny because my team makes fun of me because I have this notebook, and whenever we sit for anything, they take out their phones or their laptops, and here I am with my notebook and pen. But yeah, I like to write down things, coach. I think that it just personally it helps me a lot to remember things, especially when I want to remember things in detail. I like to write them down, techniques, and even when I see fights, make note of things. I really like to write down because at that time, you're when you're seeing fights, some most of the times it's live fights, so you don't have the privilege of pausing it and then going back and, oh, this is what happened, and so I like to write it down as it happens so that I can remember it at the end of the fight, or at the end of the day. What, like, for example, what we do is, after every big card of UFC, which is played live on our channels here, as a team, we all get together and discuss the fights, discuss what was good that happened, what we could learn from it, any particular technique that we saw. Or sometimes they ask, oh, he did that in the fight, and how's that, so all those things, for me to be able to answer that, I have a habit of writing it down.
Right, right. That's perfect. Me either. I prefer to take a pen, take a piece of paper, and take notes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
still think that's the
but
best.
it's in my mind. It's because it's how we learn how to study, right?
Yes.
Many of guys, the youngsters, they born with the cell phone on their hands. For us, it's different.
Yes, it is, coach.
For us,
Exactly.
if we can touch, we can see, we can take notes, is better. Also for our brain to connect on the future, like in 2 days, 3 days, we can write and we can read, and you can remember what we see, we saw.
It very very true, coach. And I think that has helped me a lot in my not just my coaching, but even in learning. So whenever I train with people like you, I just have a habit of making notes so that I can remember all the details at the end of the day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for every time you put me on the scene. Huh? You want to put on the light spot, huh?
No, no,
Don't do
coach.
that.
As I, yeah, we've trained a lot together for the last 2 years. We've had the privilege of having you over, come and stay with us and train with us. And we're looking forward to doing that again this year, keeping that trend going.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
I see you already have a very busy India schedule planned, but
yes.
yeah, we are going to keep you here with us in Mumbai for some time. Don't worry.
Yeah. I hope when I arrive there, they don't put me in a quarantine in Mumbai, then in Delhi, then in Kolkata, then
So I think you should plan a 6 month trip where in 3 months you'd be in
yeah,
quarantine, 3 months in training.
probably. I will take a bunch of books and then I can spend my quarantine over there. So, we are seeing a lot of events uh, massively in America, but I follow some pages in Instagram, and also they planned to do last April in India, but not happens, of course. The submission only format, sub only. Do you think this is the best way, or you prefer the balance like okay, you're gonna fight 20 minutes, if nobody submit anyone, we can do overtime like 5 minutes for an overtime, and we decide on the first point who gonna win. What you prefer?
So, coach, somehow I am a big fan of the ADCC rules. I really like the ADCC rules. Uh, I think submission only sounds great. And, but to be very honest, I think that currently in India, we might not be at that level. I think, we might take some more time to get there where, we do have some really high level guys in the country. And, it's great to see these guys compete and stuff like that. But I think somehow I still remain a big fan of the ADCC rules. I think there's certain amount of game plan that is required. Because of the first 5 minutes of no points, there's an element of risk taking as well. So that you're not scared of getting taken down or pulling guard or trying submissions and stuff like that. But at the same time, after 5 minutes, you still have that thing of okay, now the points are going to be there, so now I need to play, thinking of a game plan in mind, and how I'm going to play the whole game out. And if then at the end of 10 minutes it's a draw, it then goes into an overtime. I somehow think that works well for us. I'm a huge fan of that scale rule set.
Right,
We
right.
already have the JJIF affiliates in India. It's
Uh-huh.
the Jiu-Jitsu Federation of India that have been doing nationals and stuff. So we've been competing under the JJIF JJAU rule set. And I think that is great. I think that is great. Having 6 minutes fights with time. But somehow, yes, for me, I think the ADCC rule set is a good rule set.
Right. I'm a huge fan from ADCC rules, bro. Also because you can do heel hooks and anything, you can cross your legs, you can do whatever you want. The main target is to beat the other guy, no matter what. Another thing, I know for pro MMA, it's a different approach, but step by step, BJJ competitions around the world start to pay some money for the athletes. Do you think that's gonna be happen in India? And if you think yes, how long it takes till the guys receive some money? I don't say, oh, I received that money, I will buy a house. No, just to pay his efforts, like, okay, I go to there, I fight, I come back and start again. No, spend my money like this.
So to be very honest, coach, there are already certain events in India like grappling events which are paying their winners. At the moment, they are not paying everybody. It's a tournament style, so they pay their winners a certain amount, which at least I'm happy to see that covers their travel and their stay and food and everything,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
itself
That's
is
what
a
I
good start. I believe is a good start. But then there are two sides to it, coach. Also, somebody who's been promoting Uh, Currently, yes, mixed martial arts and some amount of BJJ at the grassroots level. As a promoter, these sports in India are at a very nascent stage. So getting sponsorships are really difficult, because people in India don't tend to understand. And combat sports is not like a cultural thing for us. Like fighting is not a part of most of the country's culture, except for certain belts. So sponsors don't really, want to put in money, or, because it's not like a mass sport. It's not on some big television, or, it's going live on a OTA platform and stuff. So, currently we don't have that kind of big sponsors. But like I said, there's a definite shift in trend. And hopefully these events, smaller events that are paying people for their travel and stay, can migrate to a point where they can at least start paying every fighter for, if not for their effort, for their travel and stay, and the winners for their effort. But yeah, I think we will get there, coach. I think we will get there. It looks positive. Honestly, it all looks positive. And, the circumstance today obviously is such that once we get out of this, firstly, when we would be able to hold events, and then again, there's a toll on the global economy, how the sponsors will look at it. So it's all a big question mark. But if we take this particular thing out of the scene, yes, obviously, the progression is there. I can say the progression is there,
Right.
and hopefully we will get there. We will get there as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, I don't know how it is in India, but here in Brazil, some guys we who follow BJJ athletes, we know, but I don't want to name them. Uh, in India, specifically in India, do you have a trash talk in BJJ or no gi grappling?
So in India, currently we are trash talking on everything. So,
Oh my
so
goodness.
it's the way I look at it, coaches. I think this is a whole, obviously a trend, or any something that was bought mainly by this whole, Conor McGregor and these guys, and that's how people now look at it in terms of getting quick popularity. Is, get on social media and then start talking trash, and it personally, I have nothing against or for it, because I believe whatever, it's bringing the sport popularity today. Fighters at whatever, at the local level, are trash talking, and then there are MMA blogs that are picking it up, putting it out there. People are responding, coaches are jumping in. I
Make
think
less
there's nothing as a
on.
bad publicity, right? There's nothing such
Yeah.
as publicity. Anything that brings eyes to the sport is good. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but somebody else is doing the job for me, so I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing right or wrong. I think as long as the sport is growing, we're always going to have this. We are always going to have. And I also believe that it's also about a person's character. Sometimes people put up an act, but sometimes people are really what they are.
Yes.
Sometimes, it like I have, one of the
Just
guys in the
let
gym.
just let everybody know what they have inside, right?
Yeah, and that there's I have this particular fighter who likes to get into the head of his opponent before a fight. Like he will like get in their face, and he'll purposely be loud and stuff like that. So his opponent's already thinking, man, once I get in the cage, I'm going to take this guy's head off, and he uses that to his advantage. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
anything that works for you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking exactly like you, bro. Uh, it's not my style, but if you want to do this for promote yourself to promote our sport, okay, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can back it up, it's all good.
Yeah.